Hello, and welcome to MoviePod, a Reclaimed Cinema podcast. I'm your host, Brian Wishart. So we're continuing Christmas month with some Christmas-adjacent films. We're going to be talking about a James Bond film that takes place at Christmas time, and this was a film that it stars a one-and-done James Bond actor, and it got a lot of criticism on release. People kind of did not like the fact that it was not Sean Connery in the role. It's always been considered kind of an outlier in the franchise, and for a long period of time, it was in negative ways. In modern times, a lot of people will look at this movie as actually being one of the top tier Bond movies and higher up in the rankings. To join me to discuss this, today's film is going to be Peter Hunt's 1969 film, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. To join me, I have my friend and huge James Bond fan, Andrew Potter. How are you doing, Potter?
Oh, I'm very good, Brian.
You're going to do that accent the whole time?
Yes, because Bond is now gone down under, Brian. You got our first Australian Bond.
Finally.
Well, just waiting.
They should, it's funny because the accent work is really inconsistent in this too. And I love the idea that, everyone says, oh, they have to have a British actor to play James Bond, English guy. They got a fucking Australian for this one.
And he looks fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is going to be a fun episode. George Lazenby, he's the one-and-done James Bond guy. He's his first acting role. He acted in commercials before, and he was a model. And he's able to just, convince some casting guys, hey, he has some sensitivity and some aggression in him. Why don't we get this guy to replace Sean Connery? Mixed results, but I think overall, it works well. I think that it's kind of a rough performance, but I think it works, it services the film relatively well.
Yeah. I think a big part of it, too, to kind of foreground, and it's something that I didn't really realize as a kid who was falling in love with James Bond, was that there was this big, there was a lot of tension between the Broccoli's and Harry Saltzman, the other producer, and Connery's team, because Connery felt justifiably that he was very underpaid for his work as James Bond. So there was this big contract disagreement. So part of the thing in bringing in Lazenby as this sort of kind of handsome scab was that they wanted someone who was very, very fresh, very new, someone who didn't have that same sort of bargaining power to hold the production team over the barrel when it came to re-upping for a sequel, which is obviously pretty ironic because there was no second George Lazenby film. So
yeah, and they tried signing Lazenby to a 7-picture deal, and even after this mid-production movie, yeah, we like what you're doing, so we want to sign you on for 7 more movies. But Lazenby just did not sign that contract, and even after the movie was done, he just yeah, I'm done with this, and walked away from a ton of money.
Yeah, and just for the record, I'm going to use Lazenby and Lazenby interchangeably, just the way it was always intended to be. It's as consistent as the accent work in this movie. So
yeah, truly, I've been calling him Lazenby for my entire life until I watched that Becoming Bond documentary about George Lazenby, which it's kind of fun, but it's pretty much an episode of Drunk History where they sit down with George Lazenby and hey, tell us about your career and your life, and then they have comedic reenactments of what he's talking about. And what's fun about the documentary is it takes it's 90 minutes long. It takes 15 minutes for him to get the James Bond stuff because he's just talking about all his sexual exploits, all the girls he banged as a teenager, everyone he banged when he was in the military, the threesomes he's had. He's just such a horny bastard, and him talking his own words about how he was able to secure this James Bond role, where he was just yeah, I'm just a very confident guy, and I just hey, I'm gonna dress for the part for this audition that my agent got me, and he literally went to Sean Connery's barber. He found out that Sean Connery left a suit that he never picked up at some cleaner, so he's went and literally grabbed Sean Connery's suit. But the thing about the guy is he's the way he tells the stories. A lot of it's probably very made up or very heightened. And you can kind of tell Lazenby's a guy who's been doing the convention circuit for how many decades now, that he's probably retold these stories so many times that he's probably, in his mind, it's true, but it's just not necessarily all false, because it sounds a lot of stuff's collaborated, whereas he how he got the job, the producer said that, yeah, it's because he, in an audition scene, like, we were really blown away when he was working with the stunt guy and had some aggression and accidentally punched the stunt guy in the face. So, like, oh, wow, this is the kind of aggression we kind of want with the James Bond, as well as some sensitivity the way, and some swagger there. And so, like, that's been, the producers have said that's why they hired him as well. And yeah, so it's just interesting seeing this guy who's like kind of, because yeah, he's like a one and done. Like he didn't really have a film career afterwards. He popped up with things here and there. He has dementia now, so he's completely out of the game entirely.
So yeah, no sequel.
Yeah,
we're not going to get him back.
Yeah, no old James Bond with George Lazenby. But yeah, so first off, let's talk about a little bit about our history of the James Bond franchise. So how did you first get into James Bond?
So I know exactly how I was introduced to it, which was my mom won a charity silent auction of like VHS tapes at like a school fundraising event. And in that bundle of tapes, they were all like action, like kind of 90s action movies. And one of them was the seminal James Bond classic, The World Is Not Enough.
Nice.
So for me, I'm like, holy crap, this is perhaps the greatest movie ever made. It's got
Dr.
everything.
Christmas Jones, played by Denise Richards, as a nuclear physicist.
Yeah, and that, for me, it's like, if you can see it, you can be it. And for that movie specifically, like, how many girls went into, like, atomic science because of Denise Richards smoking hot in a olive drab tank top? I mean, we can, that's another podcast. But basically, this movie comes out, and I'm like, okay, I think I'd probably heard of James Bond, or like, you know, seen a reference on The Simpsons or the Animaniacs, or like one of those sort of reference-heavy shows that like that was geared towards both kids and adults. But for me, like, this was the first time actually watching one of these Bond movies, and I didn't realize at the time, I'm like, oh, not only is this like not the only Bond movie, there's like, at the time, 2 other James Bond movies with this same actor. And then beyond that, once you get to, you know, once you've caught up with the other Brosnan movies, like, oh, this isn't even the guy that most people would say is like the signature James Bond. And that just opens this rabbit hole of watching all those old classic Connery, Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, all, you know, just inhaling all these movies that do start to blend together. And the quality is definitely pretty hit or miss. But it's such an interesting thing as a, you know, an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid, just kind of seeing the previous, at the time, like previous 40 years of film history, like reflected back through these movies, and just seeing the technology, the craft, the different approach to like action, comedy, romance, thriller, adventure movies, seeing that reflected through the series. So I became just an absolute Bond fanatic, and I was going to, like, as like a preteen kid, like going to like poster signing events in like skeezy hotel conference rooms so that I could meet like the 4th build Bond girl in like a 2nd tier Bond movie, and like have them sign my my posters. So like I was pretty in at that point, as, you know, Bond is just like this sophisticated, you know, wry, sarcastic, you know, glib killing machine. And as a impressionable kid, that was just, you know, fantastic. Just seeing all these incredible images of like around the world is like, it was basically National Geographic, but somehow a little more racist. So.
Yeah, like, I think my origin James Bond is like, my love for the James Bond franchise is very similar to yours. It's kind of like a travel log of the world, as well as kind of a view of the fashions and trends of, you know, of the world for different movies. Like, you know, this is a very 1969 movie. James Bond movies are always of their time. So, like, if you want to see, like, hey, like, what was action filmmaking like in the 60s? Like, this is probably, like, ahead of the game in a lot of ways than, like, other contemporary movies. But, yeah, so my dad loved the James Bond movies. So, he would record them when they're on TV. And so I had all these VHS tapes always recorded version of James Bond movies. So I watched those like a million times over. Like I've seen every James Bond movie at least. The only ones I've not seen a dozen times each, at least, are probably like Spectre because it's kind of newer, No Time to Die because it's newer. Quantum of Solace I've not seen that many times because I don't like it. But other than that, I've seen these movies so many times. Like when I was like a kid, like these were like my first DVD ever was Tomorrow Never Dies, the Pierce Brosnan one, and I watched that one so much. I was like devoured the special features of it, and yeah, so like this is like it's my favorite film franchise, and I love it because like it is so varied too, and there's always a good amount of craftsmanship to it too. Like they always are great looking movies. There's always incredible stunts in them. Really creative set pieces. Yeah, I think they're just it's a very, very fun franchise. I just remember, even as a kid watching these movies, like being hesitant to come around to this one because, like, to Honor Majesty's Secret Service, because everyone was like, oh, like, it's not the Connery one. And, you know, Connery's considered, like, you know, the best Bond, and, like, you know, the Roger Moore ones are a lot more fun. And also, like, as a kid and such, like, the themes of Honor Majesty's Secret Service of, like...
Fucking.
Yeah, it's not for, it's not really like, because it's a heavier movie, especially because of how the movie ends, and it's, you know, it's very light on the gadgets on purpose, and it's a more grounded espionage movie. And like, you know, as a kid, like I kind of loved the Roger Moore movies because they were kind of goofier and funnier. So this is just one I never really came back to a lot. But as I got older, I kind of really. This is probably a top 2 or 3 James Bond movie for me. I love this movie to death. I think it's really well done. And I think that there's some rust with George Lazenby that I don't think the directing really shows off. Like, I think you can probably direct this guy just a little bit better. And one thing that's really bad in this movie is that they clearly have a lot of ADR to redub actors' lines. Like, the actor who plays Draco, he's completely redubbed into English there because the guy can do the lines properly. Lazenby has a lot of ADR going on too, so it does come across as a little clumsy and cheesy for that, and that's one thing that I don't think that works in the movie's favor whatsoever. But yeah, like it's this movie's a blast. I love this whole franchise a ton.
Yeah, I think specific to On Her Majesty's, it's like for me this was again it being the one actor that it felt like, okay, clearly there's a signal being sent by the fact that this guy was only in one movie. He's the worst, right? Yeah. Like there's a kind of implication there. But also it was for, I think up until Spectre, it was the long one too. Most of them are like, there's some flab on all of them, but like this one felt at the time compared to some of the more like plot and action driven Bonds, like this one felt long in a way that others didn't feel long in the same way. Like there's a lot of scenes, like I don't know if we want to jump to the structure yet, but like we basically are at a single location for the last hour and 20 minutes of the movie. Mm-hmm. Like a substantial portion of the movie is in one location.
Yeah, they go up a mountain and then go down the mountain and then they go back to the mountain.
Yeah. It's a nice mountain. It's a nice mountain. It looks good. It's a
gorgeous looking mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so before we get into the film, let's kind of talk about how the movie was kind of made. So like Ian Fleming, he wrote all the James Bond books and until he passed away. And so this is so Our Majesty's Secret Service was actually so it's based on the book by the same name. So it's the 11th James Bond book overall. So he wrote it after he wrote the book The Spy Who Loved Me, which is a very, very bizarre book. Because he was kind of pissed off that like he used to saw like students were like kids and young boys were reading James Bond books in schools and thought James Bond was like a great hero. But Fleming always saw like James Bond as kind of like, this guy's a womanizer, kind of loser kind of thing. He's not a great guy. So he wrote The Spy Who Loved Me, which is told from a first-person perspective from a woman. And kind of just like as a cautionary tale to like, hey, James Bond's not a great guy. Like he saves women, he seduces them, he kind of like goes off his own way. He's not that great of a person. And the book had a pretty bad reception. Like, everyone hated the book. Fleming didn't like it either, so he even blocked a paperback release of it in the UK and said that the future film of it could only use the title, none of the plot. And the future movie that they do make of The Spy Who Loved Me has nothing to do with the book at all. When it comes to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, he's like, all right, I'm going to write this book as a complete return to form. And also, as he was writing it, like they're filming, because Ian Fleming, he former intelligence officer for the British in the World War II, and he has an island estate in Jamaica they called Goldeneye, and he they're also filming the first James Bond film, Dr. No, in Jamaica as well, so very near his estate as well. So he was checking in on how this movie was, Dr. No was being produced while he was writing this book, and he was like, hey, like, so he kind of knows, like, okay, I can kind of make this a bit more cinematic because I know how it's going to be. My books are now being turned into movies, but also, like, he's, like, kind of wanting to reject some of the gadgets and other elements that were kind of heavier in the previous books. This kind of, it's a really big return to form to the franchise in Fleming's mind to begin with. And, like, overall, like, this movie is a really faithful adaptation of the book. It's really, really close. I don't think there's a single scene from the book that's missing in this movie. And sometimes with these James Bond books, you got to cut a lot out because there's a lot of fluff in there. Goldfinger did include the entire, like, third of the book that's just a golf scene. But,
Yeah, the one Bond book that I've read, or at least I can recall reading, was You Only Live Twice. Mm-hmm. And it ends with Bond getting a concussion and believing that he's now a Japanese man. And he marries a Japanese woman and becomes a pearl diver for the rest of his days.
That one's so ridiculous. And, like, the last book Ian Fleming ever wrote was The Man with the Golden Gun, which is a shorter book. But starts off after You Only Live Twice, where he is living his life as a Japanese man. And, like, there's like, all right, James Bond, you got to come back because there's this evil circus performer who has a golden gun. He's an assassin. We need to stop him. So they have to, like, deprogram him from being Japanese.
Wow.
And at one point, Scaramanga ties the girl to like, hog ties her to a railroad track.
He was really scraping the bottom of the barrel at that point.
Yeah, so this is kind of the last gasp of a good James Bond book from Ian Fleming, and he passed away like a few years after this because of a heart failure or something. I don't know. Everyone was smoking like a chimney back then and doing barbiturates like crazy.
Yeah. To me, this feels like the most Fleming of the Bonds for me.
It is, yeah. And like as someone who like really enjoys the books, I always think that this one, it kind of gets the feel of the book accurate. I feel like Goldfinger does it points to, especially the scenes that are less heightened and insane. Like in Goldfinger, Pussy Galore is a full-on lesbian in the book, and James Bond is able to seduce her to solve her quote-unquote confusion. Like there's
a recurring theme, as we'll explore.
Yeah, and but yeah, I think like the best books are probably Casino Royale, which is like the movie Casino Royale. Like it adds a lot of action scenes. Like there's no like parkour scenes in Africa in the book, but like the actual like card games are playing. Other fact is Baccarat, which is the most boring card game ever. Like it is pretty much just a high roll tables and stuff, and a lot of just drinking a lot of alcohol and like scheming, which is kind of fun. But this one has the action. On Majesty Secret Service, the book has the action. It's a good spy thriller. But I think this is probably the best book because it kind of shows like James Bond is this character because like he's heavily drinking. He's like kind of miserable, but like then he finds someone that like, hey, woman's kind of my equal and stuff, and then kind of tragedy falls, and yeah, it's pretty much what the movie is.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so initially this movie was going to be have Sean Connery in it. So Goldfinger is the third movie, and they're going to make this the fourth film with Sean Connery in it. But we're not going to get too deep into the Thunderball stuff. But Ian Fleming, he wrote a film treatment for Thunderball with his friend Kevin McClory. And with that caused a huge rights issue that lasted for decades over who owned the actual rights for Thunderball. And with that like included like Kevin McClory claiming he had the rights for the usage of the word Spectre. So that's why like Blofeld was not in James Bond movies for decades. That's why the movie Spectre like came out when it did, because like that lawsuit was finally settled. Like this is something that was going on for literally like 40 years, this whole lawsuit. But they fast-tracked Thunderball because they thought the rights issue was settled, so like they didn't do Our Majesty's Secret Service then. So then after Thunderball, they're going to make Our Majesty's Secret Service, but they're going to film with Switzerland like they do in this movie. But that year, the Swiss winter was very light, so there wasn't much snow. So like, okay, fuck it, let's just do You Only Live Twice instead. And then while filming You Only Live Twice, Sean Connery resigned partway through the production. He's like, hey, I'm not coming back anymore. And so then they're like, all right, so let's try and who do we want for James Bond next? So initially, their plan was always to get Roger Moore to be the new James Bond, but they want to do the Man with the Golden Gun as the next one. But they're going to film in Cambodia, but Cambodia is having a lot of political issues in the late 1960s. So they decided not to make that movie, and Roger Moore said, like, hey, I'm going to make another series of the TV show The Saint instead. So they had to find a new James Bond, and so they thought, like, you know, like they were absolutely okay with recasting James Bond. Like the initial plan, even the screenplay was like, we're going to make James Bond go under plastic surgery, so like we can just have it makes sense why the actor looks a lot different. Yeah, so like they started doing a massive hunt to find new James Bond actors. They looked over 400 different actors for it. Some that they considered heavily were John Richardson and Terrence Stamp. I think Terrence Stamp James Bond would be very fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally different than Connery too. Like far, like almost closer to like what Timothy Dalton was eventually. That very kind of like hard-boiled, tense, less glib, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that would be an interesting choice. Like, I love these James Bond what ifs. Like, I think it's fascinating to see, like, what would this actor look like in this movie here? Like, what would Roger Moore have looked like in this movie? Could he have pulled off the emotional element too? Could he have pulled off the intensity? And I always think it's like a really fascinating kind of exercise to guess who's going to play what James Bond. I feel like all these discussions now is going to like replace Daniel Craig and stuff. It's such boring picks too, because always like everyone's like, it has to be a British person to be James Bond. Like they almost replaced Lazenby with Clint Eastwood. They almost replaced. They literally had screen tests for when Roger Moore wasn't going to come back for Octopussy. They literally had James Brolin on the set, dressed up like James Bond for screen tests. Like James Brolin's going to be the next James Bond. Like they're not set for just having it be a British guy each time, especially with the Broccoli family and how like much control they had over the franchise. Like they had complete creative control until like they just signed away the rights to Amazon. So who the fuck knows what the next one's going to look like?
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things with the Bond casting too is I think as we've moved away from the Connery and Moore eras into like modern times, Bond has increasingly become this symbol of British Empire, in a way that like he was always a symbol, but now as the British Empire has continued to fade from its heyday in like the early part of the 20th century. Now I think that's why it's become a bigger sticking point that Bond needs to be a very particular sort of British person versus like, you know, people about say, okay, why not Idris Elba? Why not Dev Patel? And who would, you know, they would both give great performances, I'm sure, but like that's, I think for a lot of people, whether it's, you know, explicitly a racial or ethnic issue or whether it's a subconscious thing, I think that's why they could get away with having an Australian in 1969. But I think even like an Australian or, you know, I don't even know if they would necessarily have a full Irish or Scottish James Bond, even though Scotland, yeah. I mean, the character is explicitly Scottish, right? But I think there's some you know British diaspora where they wouldn't sort of venture off to these days. I think. Well, time will tell with however they approach the next iteration of Bond. But
we're eating our words when they cast like Tom Holland as James Bond, have like a baby Bond.
We need our first twink Bond.
Yeah. Yeah, James Bond that has to like show his ID to show that like, hey, I can buy a martini. Like.
Yeah, he needs to get to Blofeld, he's got to suck a lot of dick.
Yeah, I got a really gay James Bond, a really gay one.
They're gonna, and the whole plot is gonna hinge on. I was like, Mr. Bond, I thought you were straight.
Yeah. Like that's gonna happen at some point. They're gonna have like James Bond like seduce a man at some point. That's just inevitable, I think.
I think they called it Skyfall.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we're casting, doing this casting, there, Albert Broccoli, he saw like George Lazenby in a chocolate bar advertisement on TV. So he's like, all right, let's ask this guy to audition. And as you mentioned, he had this one really great aggressive scene with the stunt double, which is so like they're like, hey, this guy has the energy, let's give him a shot. And with that casting, they wanted to have an established Bond girl as the lead, established actress to play the lead. So Diana Rigg was cast because she'd already been in that TV show The Avengers, and for some reason, like Okay, so Donald Pleasant plays Blofeld in the previous movie. You only live twice, and that's one where that's what Doctor Evil's based off of in Austin Powers. It's the iconic bald head, scar across the face, white cat, and for some reason, hey, we like the guy, but we don't want to have Donald Pleasant's back. So then they decided to recast him with Telly Savalas. Mm-hmm. And
Kojak.
Yeah, Kojak, yeah. And I like Telly Savalas a lot in this movie. I think that the Blofeld performance in You Live Twice is kind of a little bit overrated. I think it's just, it looks good, but I don't think it's anything that special, really. I think Telly Savalas does a really big, in this movie, he seems like a guy who's, can run an evil empire and is completely full of himself.
And he's kind of a mirror of Bond, because they're both kind of these, libertine, they're both kind of 70s, 60s, kind of free swinging, cigarette smoking. They're both very catty and sexy, and they're wearing turtlenecks, and
yeah.
they're kind of playing this weird, similar to what we're saying with Bardem and Daniel Craig in Skyfall. There is kind of a weird sexual tension between Telly Savalas and Lazenby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I think adds a lot of fun to the dynamic too, because honestly, it's kind of surprising they've not had a proper female lead villain in a James Bond movie.
Hey, respect to The World Is Not Enough.
Time to Die.
Everyone's favorite Bond film.
I do have fun with that one, but it's mid-tier for me. Some cool chases, though. Very cool chases. So, into the movie itself. So, of course, we start off with the iconic gun barrel sequence, where, it's a James Bond movie. They all have it. And so, initially, we open up in London, and Q showing off to M some radioactive lint that they can use for tracking people. So, they wrote this in as a gag to show how ridiculous some of the gadget work has become in these movies. And kind of say, this is not going to be a film. It's going to have a lot of gadgets. Mm-hmm. And, sorry?
Yeah, they really shortchange our boy Q, Desmond Llewellyn, with his "Don't touch that 007, that's my radioactive lint."
Yeah, he has a scene.
Bond's not even there.
Yeah, he has the one scene that starts there. He has one interaction at the end of the movie at James Bond's wedding, but that's about it.
Yes, where everyone's sad that they didn't get one night with Bond before he shacked up.
Yeah,
we'll get to that. Yeah.
So M's going on this radioactive lint's useless because I won't tell us where James Bond is right now. And they're trying to track down 007, and he's part of Operation Bedlam, which is the hunt for Blofeld, because Blofeld escaped the end of the last movie. And so they have no idea where James Bond is. So we cut to Portugal, and there's a highway. There's a DB7 driving on the highway there. Get the James Bond theme, and you see a guy smoking a cigarette in the car, and you see this guy's chin to begin with, and you can tell it's not Sean Connery. So this is our first introduction to a new James Bond. And on this highway, a woman's driving on the road behind him and overtakes him. And as James Bond's driving, he sees his car still parked on the side of the road. And he notices that, oh shit, she's going down towards the beach. And she's still in her dress and is trying to drown herself in the water. So this one's played by Diana Rigg. We later learn that her name's Tracy. So James Bond, being the, savior he is, runs out of his car, runs down to the water, and prevents her from drowning herself. He says, we get her first Lazenby line when, she kind of wakes up a little bit. It's good morning, my name is Bond, James Bond. We get two goons show up, and one guy sticks a gun to Bond's head, and the other sticks a knife to the woman's neck. And it's a pretty good fight that occurs here.
Yeah. I think, the one thing I'll say is Bond doesn't immediately race down to her assistance. He first takes out his telescope and scouts out the beach like a true sex pest. It's unclear that he has any sort of relationship or attachment to this person at all. It's unclear whether he's been kind of assigned to follow her, or if she's just a random woman that all of a sudden he sees a woman pass him, and he just whips out his telescope and he's like, "Oh, a day at the beach."
I can see her feet.
Yes. Oh, they really linger with a point of view shot on her feet. So.
This James Bond's a foot guy.
Yeah. Oh, it's 1969, and this is going to be a very sexy movie. Yeah, the fight is good. As with a lot of fights in this movie, they've cranked the reverb up 1,000%, and every single punch is like a Adam West Batman kapow.
Yeah.
It's again the recording effects are spectacular. They're definitely playing to the back row of a massive theater.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Peter R. Hunt directed this movie, and he was the editor for the previous 5 James Bond movies. So they picked him because they liked his editing style, and they kind of wanted the action to be amped up a little bit. And you can tell the action is pretty amped up. And a lot of the Connery ones, like a lot of the chase scenes, like they have like things are sped up, like to like emulate this. Everything's going fast and everything. So it's not that jarring when it comes to like if you're watching all the Connery movies, but like if you're going from like a like I don't know, a modern slick action movie to something like 1969, it is very over the top.
Yeah. But it's good they sped up these scenes because otherwise this movie would be like 4.5 hours.
I know, right? Yeah, so like Bond gets the upper hand over these couple of guys. He's beating the shit of one guy in the water and drowns him in the ocean there, and a lot of great punches and such. As is happening, Casey runs and steals James Bond's car and drives away. And he has this great, very fourth wall breaking line. This never happened to the other fellow.
Yeah, which is hilarious because on one hand, they're trying their best not to draw any attention to the fact that this is clearly not like they're trying to play both sides in acknowledging that it's not Connery, but not wanting to make a big deal out of it. But They go out of their way several times to highlight that it is a different Bond. It's very odd. This almost felt like the most Austin Powers-y moment of the movie of just like what very odd. Not something we see winking from the filmmakers in various movies in different ways, like callbacks to other moments. But this is so explicit, and it's. How do you feel about this?
This line, I don't like. I think it's funny. Same time, like I think if they just like, I like the reference they have later on where he's going through his desk and like he sees like the knife from Dr. No and the music plays there, the watch from Russia with Love and the music plays there. I think that's a fun enough reference, but this this is just like this is not the James Bond we watched before. And yeah, I do agree that like it's a funny line, but it's also like when I start thinking about like why is this in this movie? And so we get the opening title sequence, which like has no vocal song. It's just the theme song to this movie, which is I love the music in this movie.
It's
and
good.
What's kind of goofy about this one is that they're showing clips from previous movies.
Yeah, very very Jay Kelly.
Yeah. Like
a reference that immediately dates this podcast. So.
Yeah, no one's gonna think about Jake Kelly in like 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, they use a montage, and they don't. Do they show Connery in the montage, or it's mostly just Bond girls and villains? And
they show Connery. They show like Connery, his introduction scene, like Dr. No, like Bond, James Bond. They also show like them like him diving on the hills with the girl and From Russia with Love and stuff. So they do show Sean Connery in the clips a fair amount.
Yeah. And also at the same time, the classic touch of silhouetted babes with the most triangular breasts you've ever seen.
Oh yeah, the 60s, it's glorious. I
don't want to be boorish, but like you couldn't find 2 other models here with kind of more curvilinear breasts. Like these are very angular breasts.
I think it's
and
a style
that is
the
the key attribute. This is the key attribute of being a silhouetted, figure. Is you kind of have to strike a pose. I don't know.
I think it's a style of the time because think about like all the like the cone bras of the 60s. Like,
yeah, I
think they may have this casting process like, hey, we need someone with the most triangular nipples ever to be silhouettes for our James Bond opening.
Well, they found her.
Yep. Yeah. So, I again, the music, I love the theme song so much in this movie. And, like, it's funny that, like, this, again, this movie being a black sheep with the franchise, like, they started, like, with the trailers for Spectre, they used the theme song for this movie in that. Mm-hmm. So, like, even as a black sheep with the franchise, is like, the music cues for this movie, especially, like, All the Time in the World, that appears in No Time to Die as well, frequently. And that's All the Time in the World by Louis Armstrong is basically the harbinger. Like James Bond's gonna have a very, very bad time in this installment.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting that use of they lay out with the theme song with no vocals, and then they have this musical interlude with Louis Armstrong, a very American, a very not James Bond performer. It's a steep contrast.
Yeah, and I think it's good because like, All the Time in the World is the song of the movie. It is the James Bond song of the movie, but like it's not for the opening credits. I think it's good because this movie is a departure in itself, and I think it kind of works with it works because it's trying to be more emotional. Like, the song Goldfinger, about a fat guy who loves gold, has nothing to do with the emotional state of James Bond. So after the opening title credits, James Bond, he arrives at a casino because he finally sees where his car ended up. He talks to the casino owner and figures out the woman who stole his car's name is Contessa Teresa de Vincenzo. So he goes to play some Baccarat, which is the most boring card game to watch.
Yeah. They really were. There's a lot of Baccarat in these early Bond movies, and yeah.
We watched Ballad of a Small Player at TIFF.
Oh boy!
And that movie is all playing Baccarat, and it is the most boring cinematic. They had to do a lot of flourishes to make that game look interesting on screen, and they did not do a good job for that movie.
Because, like, I don't know, like if the average person knows what Baccarat is, but it's basically just like a very like European blackjack. I don't know. You're trying to get to what? You're trying to get to 10?
You're trying to get to 9, but if you roll over the number 10, then it recounts itself. So like if you get like a 10 and a 3, that counts as like a 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's less strategy than blackjack, so it's kind of not as much like of an interesting thing where like a player is making a choice.
Yeah. It should almost be Bond at the slot machine.
Yeah. But at this table, it's high stakes Baccarat, so like 20,000 franc bets, and Tracy arrives at the table. She loses her bet right away, and she can't pay it. So Bond offers to pay the bet to avoid her being humiliated. So they sit down and have a drink, and he offers. She is like, "Hey, thank you for paying my bet. So like, why don't you come up and like, go to my room later on?" Which Bond will always say yes to because Bond is a horny bastard. Yeah. And one thing I love this whole casino scene. This movie's shot in Technicolor. And it really pops. I think this movie is gorgeous. Like, all, like, the purples and such in the casino scene here, all the colors, it really shows. Like, you don't get Technicolor in movies anymore because, like, just the format doesn't work. Like, they just can't do it for... Technicolor is just not a thing anymore. It just really... It's of its era, but also it really pops off. It looks good.
Yeah. This is, I will say, I would opt to watch this in a... more like a standard definition format, if possible, because I think the larger, more high def this becomes, the more that these kind of interior scenes are very clearly sets, and it kind of loses. I felt at times like, I agree, the images in these scenes, like, they were very stark and like everything's very brightly lit and very like theatrically lit, but some of the shots you realize like this is a very shallow set. Like, this is not a... and there's some aspects that I feel like modern like home viewing technology is almost a little too good for some of these, for how this was originally conceived.
Yeah, because like some like especially later on, like the mountain stuff, everything up there, like that looks so great because it's all like a lot of exteriors, and even like the interior sets there, like you don't really see the you're right, with the depth of it. It seems like it'd be a lot more realistic and clearly not as a stage, but yeah, so Bond goes up to Tracy's room. He's attacked by a goon. They get to a really great fist fight. Again, we're talking about all these like, Adam West Batman style punches. It's a good fight, like very brutal. Like there's destroying so much furniture in the room.
He does have a pretty terrible one-liner that
yep.
I had to pause it. I'm like, I don't really understand. He said something like, "I'll show you the gate."
Yeah,
like,
it's
what?
Really bad.
What? Show you the gate?
Yeah.
But he like threw him through like a trellis of some sort. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess they're calling that a gate.
Yeah. And then as he leaves the room, he grabs some caviar from the table there, and he leaves, and it's like, oh, royal caviar, north of the Caspian.
Boiled. Royal, or I thought boiled caviar.
The subtitles from me said royal.
Like, royal beluga, north of the Caspian.
Yeah. It's a bad line.
Like, he ordered it. I think he should have had a little. He should have taken the tin with him. Anyway,
yeah.
Her Majesty paid for it.
Actually, no. This is Tracy's room. He's going into first, right?
Oh, you're right.
And Tracy's waiting in his room. Now he goes back to his own room, and Tracy's waiting there. And it's just like sticks a gun in his face, and there's like cute little thing where she's like, I just want to kill you for a thrill, and like he just like beats her around a little bit, and at this point they're talking a little bit more. He's like realizes that she's like a very like she kind of says like she has no idea who's the thug that beat him up was, and Bond's like, hey, like, you clearly are in trouble, like, what's going on here? And she's like, I have nothing to say about that at all. And like, they're outside, and she's like, here's a thank you for paying at the casino there. So they end up hooking up, and in the morning she's just complete ghosts him. She's gone. And it's funny because James Bond is like he calls up room service, like, hey, like, can I have a cafe for two? And you give me contact with the room next door. He's like, oh yeah, the Contessa's already gone. He's like, motherfucker, I'm all alone now.
He hasn't canceled his order. I probably would have changed the order at that point, but
maybe
whatever.
One of the 2 coffees and like 2 like steak and eggs for breakfast.
What's interesting is, so clearly Bond has been at this hotel many times because the staff, when he arrives, the staff immediately recognize him, and they put him up in basically the lover's suite. And the concierge gives him a little tour and basically says, like, don't worry, Mr. Bond, we've taken care of every one of your special needs. So, like, his reputation as, like, a sexual deviant precedes him. But this room not only has a full, massive interior, it also has, like, a king-size daybed out on the exposed veranda. And immediately after beating the crap out of this henchman in the adjacent room, he, without actually ensuring that the henchman's dead, he then goes back to his room and sleeps on the daybed outside while the henchman is coming to his senses. It's a very odd strategic decision. It's actually very poor planning. But clearly he's already paid for the lover's suite, and he intends to get his money's worth.
He makes a lot of bad decisions because he gets horny in this movie. Like, he gets cum drunk and then just makes it backfires horrifically each time. Because like this, the guy he beat up there, like, so he leaves to go golfing the next morning, and he gets like guns pointed at him by another set of goons there, including he beat up the previous night. And this is one really bad line where it's like, oh, we can make this a foursome when he gets like put into a car.
Yeah. These henchmen are very polite, I will say, including the one that he just beat the crap out of. All these henchmen are. He is very accommodating to them, basically insinuating that they're going to take him out back and kill him. Mm-hmm. He just hops right into the car, forgets about the golf clubs. He's a little too accommodating, and he's cracking jokes the entire time.
Yeah, I think it's just because he's like so blissed from having sex the night before that he just can't think straight.
Yeah, he goes, business or pleasure? The mystery tour. The mystery tour. Eh?
So these goons, they take him down to the docks, and so he's being brought down like a hallway there, and he gets the upper hand and just like starts beating the shit out of all 3 of them, and steals one of their knives and busts into the door. And in the room, there's Draco, who is the head of a Portuguese mafia or something, a Portuguese crime syndicate. Mm-hmm. And so they have a talk there, and Bond's is able to recognize who this guy is because like a Spectre Blofeld crime organization is pretty massive. Draco's organization is like almost as big. So they have a conversation, and Draco reveals that Tracy is his daughter. And that Tracy's been a really difficult child, and she needs some emotional stability. So Draco tries striking up a deal where it's like, hey, like, if you marry my daughter, I will give you the information about Blofeld.
Yeah, it's basically, this whole scene could be the setup to a porno.
Yeah,
it's basically like a daughter swap porno.
Yeah,
he's like, my. First of all, this guy looks like the like Mediterranean Shea Wiggum. The classic character actor. As you've said, all his lines are overdubbed. Mm-hmm. But he's basically like, what's the line? He goes, I've been informed of everything you've done for my daughter. And Bond goes, everything?
Yes, even that.
Don't worry about that. What you did, the way you behave, it might be the beginning of some sort of therapy.
Yeah.
So he's basically like, please fuck my daughter, and make her. You need to physically and sexually dominate her to basically break her wild spirit.
It's an insane thing for a father to say.
Yes, the head of this massive international criminal organization's like, basically, I want you to cuck me. Cuck me by by banging my daughter. It's absolutely bizarre,
Yeah.
and is completely in line with the fact that Bond, Draco, and Blofeld are all extremely horny men.
Like incredibly horny. Like Draco has like a woman with him who's different than like some mistress he has at his own birthday party that we'll get to in the next scene.
Yeah, and she's really good at chess.
Yeah. And
she also plays a very good game of chess. Like, sorry, is that innuendo? You were literally just playing chess.
Yeah, and
It's
like
unclear.
he seems like the kind of guy who finds everything erotic. Like she could be like clipping her toenails. Like, oh, very erotic.
Let me just get out my telescope.
Yeah. Yeah. Bond, I saw you peeping my daughter with your sex telescope at the beach.
Yes, I want you to now have sex with her.
Yeah, please
and I'll
inseminate
pay
my
you.
daughter.
Oh my god.
And so Bond's just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to marry your daughter, but like, he's like, all right, but like, fine, I will continue to like court as long as I can go to your birthday party so we can talk more about Blofeld.
Yeah. Oh, I will say there's part in the setup to him eventually telling him the story or revealing that he wants Bond, this random guy that saved his daughter once and then bailed her out of her gambling debt. In the lead up to saying he wants her to woo her, wants Bond to woo his daughter, he delivers this extremely long and boring story, and Bond is just sitting there the whole time. And he's like, "Actually, I think I'd prefer if you guys did just kill me. This story is so fucking boring."
It's
and
like how he met her mother.
Oh my god! It's like
Ted
hearing someone
Mosby,
talk
calm
about their
down.
fantasy football team. I'm like, I do not care. I only care about drinking, killing, and fucking.
Yeah.
And then there might be some fucking here. Okay, in that case, carry on. But get to your point, counselor.
It'd be great if like How I Met Your Mother, instead of being about Ted Mosby telling a boring story to his kids, it was like James Bond listening to a guy to like this. Here's a story about how I met the mother, and like I was on the run in the fields and met your mother, and like in a ruin somewhere that we fell in love. Like way better sitcom for 9 seasons, just to have James Bond. Yeah, sure, yada yada.
And her father paid me to have sex with her too.
Yeah. And someday you will pay your daughter to have sex with someone else. Like
that is the way of the world now, Bond.
It's such a bizarre. It's so outdated.
It's also a long pitch for his construction company. I'm Draco of Draco Construction.
Yeah.
Like, are you looking for investors?
Yeah. And so so Bond goes to Draco's birthday party, which is like at like some like it's like a lot of like horse riding around, but it's also like there's some bullfighting happening too.
Yeah.
And I think the scene looks the exterior stuff with all the technical stuff looks absolutely fantastic. There's a part where Tracy is driving in her car there, and she has like this weird ass hat, and her sideburns are going like crazy, like they're really like, coming off her face.
Yeah, I think at this point they realize, wow, after that initial scene or her initial introduction where she's got a bit of an accent, she kind of lapses right back to just her actual British voice. So I think there's this correction point here where they try to make her look as like Mediterranean as possible. So they give her this kind of like Mask of Zorro hat, and they're just trying to make her look extremely European. And she's Diana Rigg, like she looks very British.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so at this birthday party, like she like he says like Draco tells Bond like, or Draco's hesitant to tell anything like that, but then Tracy's like, "Daddy, if you don't tell James Bond these things, you will never see me again." Man, like being all bratty.
Yeah.
And he eventually says to Bond that like, all right, so there's a connection to Blofeld with Gumboldt, which is a law firm in Switzerland. So he goes like, all right, so we're going to look at this law firm a little bit too, but then Tracy gets all upset because she's all emotionally distraught, and Bond like catches up with her, and like then they start a bit of like their romance where they have there's like a little bit of a montage where you start hearing all the time in the world going on. It looks fine, and you can tell a lot of Lazenby's like commercial work is in here because there's a lot of like he's expressing himself like he's in an advertisement for like I don't know like a dick pill or something.
Yeah, and honestly, it's effective.
It is. I like the scene a lot, and like you get like I think it's better than having a lot of with Lazenby not being the best actor, having it done through montage as without a lot of dialogue. You can kind of like, you can kind of see these two people actually do like each other.
But that's the thing too. Like it's the longest Bond film for basically up until the Craig era. They do have to yada his legit falling in love with this woman. He's not just trying to screw, and he's not just doing it for money. He's actually doing it for love. And there's going to be an hour-long chunk here where Tracy disappears from the film entirely. Mm-hmm. So we have to have this Louis Armstrong montage of them doing coupley things, driving along the coast and frolicking, so that when we come back to Tracy in the last 20 minutes of the film, we're like, oh yeah, he loves this woman for some reason.
Yeah. But also you need like all the break between them too, because Bond gets laid like 3 more times between this with other women.
We never said we were exclusive.
So in Switzerland, they're breaking into some law. Bond's breaking into some law office, and they have like some pretty cool thing where there's a construction site happening across the street because Draco has construction connections. So like, Bond gets in the office there, and through a crane, they lift up like a decoder machine, a safecracker machine, into the office. That Bond grabs on the balcony and like sets up this safecracker. And as the safecracker is doing his business, like he's just sitting there biding his time. He just opens up a Playboy magazine and is like going through centerfolds. Yeah,
this reminds me of The Killer from a few years ago. Like, there's a lot of dead time in the scene where he's just waiting for the safecracker to crack the machine to work, and he's literally just sitting there kind of mentally jerking off for like 20 minutes.
It would be great if it was like The Killer, like, here's the internal monologue, like, no mistakes, like, be precise, like, do this, do that.
He turns the whole Playboy sideways and unfolds the centerfold. He's like, ugh.
And the best part is when he leaves the office, like, he has just the centerfold of the Playboy, not the magazine, with him.
Yeah. Oh, I'm saving that for later.
So, like, when, like, Gumboldt or whoever is the lawyer there who's obviously broke into, he's like, all right, my Playboy was here. Where's the centerfold?
Why is it so sticky?
Again, like, Bond's horniness just keeps fucking him over in this movie so much. Like, I'm surprised there isn't a consequence here. But what they learn in the safe there, that there's a connection between... Blofeld is trying to, is in correspondence with, like, the London College of Arms, and Blofeld is trying to lay claim that he's the Comte Balthazar de Beauchamp. So he's trying to, get some heraldry rights to, like, become, like, a lord or something. But we had to pause for a second for the recording, but don't worry, it's been breaking news that Philip Rivers is officially starting a game of football on Sunday.
Oh my god. Now that's a horny man.
Oh god, yeah, he was James Bond to Shane. What, like he has like 9 kids?
I think he's up to double digits, and he's got grandkids now. So.
Man. Yeah. He's fucking like he does not have all the time in the world. Like he is just...
Yeah, he's a machine.
He'll never stop.
So sorry, we were at the... So he's broken into the law office. Mm-hmm.
So
what information does he get from the safe?
From the safe, he gets some correspondence between Blofeld and the London College of Arms, and Blofeld's trying to lay claim that he's the Comte Balthazar de Beauchamp. So he's trying to get some rights to some heraldry. So he wants to be able to declare himself like a lord or something, or a count. He wants to declare himself a count. Yes. And so with that information, Bond gets in contact with Sir Hilary Bray, who's a genealogist, and through that he's gonna pretend to be Bray and talk to Blofeld and figure out and pretend to be Hilary Bray and actually confirm that it's Blofeld they're dealing with, because Blofeld wants to interact with him so he can get the rights to the title. An
absolutely insane plot device that Blofeld is really into the idea of like heraldry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's so, especially, I think it kind of in the book it makes a lot more sense, because in the, within the realm of the books, like, this is the first time that Bond's ever met Blofeld. Like, no one's ever encountered Blofeld himself. So, like, it makes sense for Blofeld to kind of, be doing brazen things like this. But considering that, James Bond ran into Blofeld at a volcano lair in the last movie.
Right.
It kind of doesn't make much sense for Blofeld to be doing things that are, very out in the open like this.
There's a lot of paradox here, where, as you've mentioned, there's a scene where he's at MI6 and he's going through his own desk. We see Bond's office, and he's going through his desk, and he sees all the old gadgets from past movies, And obviously we've got that fourth wall breaking moment where he addresses the audience and says, "This never happened to the other guy."
Yeah.
But at the same time, so he's confronting Blofeld, and it's unclear whether this is supposed to kind of be a prequel to what happens in You Only Live Twice. Mm-hmm. Blofeld he's played by a different actor. It's Savalas, not Donald Pleasance, but he's the same character. It's unclear. It's unclear why everyone is being super weird. I think there's just it's a suspension of disbelief where you just have to think that this is now a completely new James Bond. But it's within the same world, so it's like an alternate timeline.
Yeah, because I think they weren't really thinking about continuity as much back in the 60s. Like, there's some loose continuity to these Bond movies, like where like Spectre is like in charge of people. Like, you see Blofeld with the cat like in Thunderball and such, but like it's not really like now where Spectre is obviously a sequel to Skyfall, when No Time to Die is obviously like beholden to like, you know, Casino Royale. Like, it's a very loose continuity, and like I think this shows why it's best that the Roger Moore movies just don't really have any continuity, because like they weren't very good at doing it.
Yeah, there's a few moments like Richard Kiel as Jaws in multiple movies, and there's a few that tie back to Spectre, but they're all loose. They're all loosely, yeah.
Yeah, so like it doesn't really make too much sense considering that like You Only Live Twice happened before this movie, because like it just doesn't make much sense. But so and also like with this discovery, like because Bond initially put in his resignation to MI6 with Moneypenny, but Moneypenny was like, hey, like I know you're not going to truly resign there, but you know, Bond is just chasing leads on his own because Bond likes to do things, you know, rogue. But now he has full permission from M to chase after Blofeld now. So now Bond is proposing as Sir Hilary Bray. So the guy who plays Sir Hilary Bray is the guy who's actually dubbing Lazenby for the sequence. So when Bond's playing as Bray, it's a very like bookish, nervous, kind of like almost like a Clark Kent type performance.
Yes, and he's wearing a very dopey hat for most of it.
Yeah. And big glasses, and he has a kilt for a lot of these scenes too.
Yes, very practical attire for a mountainous resort.
Yeah. So this is in Switzerland. So Bond arrives, and he's brought up to this mountain lair by Blofeld's right hand woman, Irma Bunt. She's like a very like German, like strict person, and so apparently Blofeld has established this clinical research institute at the top of this Piz Gloria, which is a mountain, and so like apparently this institute, they've been working on curing like phobias and allergies, like completely eradicating them through like a mixture of medicine and psychological like experiments.
Yes, on exclusively beautiful women.
Exclusively beautiful women, yeah. But on the way up, so like they have to like initially just drive up a little bit, and one of Bond is like some sort of like another spy kind of like in the periphery who's like kind of trailing him, trying to help out, and so like Irma Bunt like yells him a little bit already, this other spy, and
he's one of Draco's associates, I thought.
Draco's associates, yes, correct, yes, one of Draco's guys. And so like they have to take a helicopter up to this mountain to get to the top of the peak there, so it's very far away from like, you know, a lot of human civilization. And all these helicopter shots are like, you know, so beautiful. I think this part looks awesome. That's what I love about old James Bond movies. You see all these like shots that would be expensive to film, but they do it, and it looks fantastic. It's all shot on film. It looks great. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so you get up to this like Blofeld's mountain lair there. He goes like, you know, this dinner at this place there. Everyone thinks it's Sir Hilary Bray, and at this dinner, like he sees like there's 12 women who are like the most beautiful people ever from clearly different parts of the world. Like you can tell from different parts of the world because there's like an Indian woman wearing like Indian garb. There's like very clearly like they're supposed to be from different places, and it's like there's, you know, one woman who's like, you know, Bond's like trying to bed the or Sir Hilary Bray, like he's being very bookish and nerdy, talking about heraldry nonstop, and like these girls are so like horny and just like kind of like oh, we need to get laid somehow. Like they're kind of hanging on his word, but some of them are falling asleep to it. But like one of the ones that's completely just like really wants to bang him, like, and they keep making these jokes about how with allergies and stuff like that, like, oh, like, Sir Hilary must be allergic to one thing because like they think that he's gay.
Yeah. There's a heavy insinuation that he's gay, and I'm not sure whether that's because the real Sir Hilary in the genealogist that he's pretending to be, if that character's gay and that's part of their dossier on him, or like it's unclear what they're picking up on.
I think it's his vibe because like they seem shocked that he's straight, like when he goes into their beds to sleep with them.
Yeah. Well, this is the first time in the movie that Bond isn't just immediately being a pervert. Like, it takes him a solid couple hours to really lean into his inclinations. It's also unclear, are they all horny because of this shady, secretive, scientific thing that's happening to them? Or are they just horny because they're in this former ski resort turned lair and there's no fuckable men around? Like, why are they so horny?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? Because if you're trying to get the beautiful people to be part of some nefarious plot, you probably want to get people who are willing to seduce whoever you're sending them towards.
Yeah.
So maybe they were like chosen because of their like libidos, and so like at this resort, like Irma Bunt shows like Bond to his room and like says that like you have to be like buzzed out of your room. Your room's locked from the outside, so people can't just wander around. They say it's for treatment purposes, but it's because there's an evil lair happening there.
Right.
So at the dinner, like, the one really like, horny, like almost, she also has like a Cockney accent there. At dinner, she like, because he's wearing a kill, like she takes her lipstick and like writes her room number on his thigh, like number 8.
It looks like she's writing like a small poem.
Yeah.
And it's revealed, ultimately, he gets back to his room and hikes up his kilt, and it's just the number 8.
Yeah.
He's writing there for like a solid minute. And you're like, oh my God, what's she writing? 8.
Yeah.
Not very subtle, too. Like, Irma clearly sees that something's happening here. I think she's like, well, this guy's just getting a hand job at the table.
Yeah. That's okay. It's not going to disrupt the process and the procedure. It's better for him to get wanked off at the table than to wander around at night. And so Bond like is able to escape his room because he pulls some metal of a ruler and kind of like jimmies the door open. And so he goes down to her room there and like Understone's like, "Oh, I'm Hilary Brake. Do you want to read my genealogy book?"
Yeah. After boring the shit out of everyone at the dinner table for like what seems like it's an extended sequence where it looks like he's been talking for 3 straight hours about like what the gold balls on the heraldry mean. There's a lot of references to gold balls. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the chicken heiress who's allergic to chicken, they quickly fuck.
Mm-hmm. And like they're getting down to it, and like I think they're going for round 2, but then like a certain time night clicks in, and there's a broadcast over all of the speakers there because Blofeld has set up as part of their treatment, quote unquote, like some tapes for like like you shall not fear chickens are the mind killer or whatever it is, and like
it's basically it's the boat scene from Willy Wonka. There's no way of knowing.
Yeah. Because the lights get all psychedelic too. Like, the lights get all kind of crazy. It is very much like that Willy Wonka scene. I think the scene looks great because it's kind of like Lazenby's playing it just like, what the fuck is happening?
He's like, is it unethical if I steal poker?
Yeah, because she's completely like in like a trance. Like she can't wake up or do anything. Whereas like he's just like, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. And so he's kind of realized like, oh shit, this is brainwashing. And afterwards he goes back to his room and someone... Is he going to another woman's room, or does another woman come to him?
He returns to his room, where he finds another woman, a slightly different woman. Instead of having a short, curly haircut, she's got longer hair. And he basically says the exact same lines again. Yeah,
he does. It's so funny.
Same pickup lines. He's like, well, they haven't had time to compare notes. But I think the implication is because she wasn't in her room, she was out of her room during the prescribed brainwashing time.
Oh yeah.
So that's why she's not in her room to receive her brainwashing. So that's why she's able to give a little bit more plot exposition or whatever before Bond immediately beds her as well.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, he goes back to his room, and there's another woman in his bed. And he opens up the cover, and it's Irma Bunt.
It's Irma Bunt, yes.
It just like bonks him in the head. He gets knocked out. And
an unnecessary trap. That's not a great way to trap someone.
Yeah, especially because you have like guards with assault weaponry. You just like point a gun at James Bond, like, "Hey, like you're coming with us."
Like, you're telling me these rooms that are all sealed, like, you don't have, like, the gas button? You can just gas them? Like, you had to hide in the bed, turned around, and as soon as he pokes you on the shoulder or whatever, you flip around and bop him. It was a legit jump scare. That got me, actually.
It is, yeah. It's effective.
Very weapons.
Yeah. Aunt Gladys should have worked at this facility.
Oh, you might be onto something. That's good. Yeah. So Bond has been caught, and it's not just that he's been caught fucking all the harem of women. They've known he was Bond all along, which again complicates the matter of, is this chronologically happening after Blofeld has already met Bond in You Only Live Twice, or how? So they haul him in front of Blofeld, and he reveals the thing that gave him away as Bond was what's the line? It's no, Mr. Bond. Respectable baronets from the College of Heralds do not seduce female patients in clinics.
Yeah. And he also said something where like Bond like misidentified a church that they were going to be attending to prove that the Beauchamp heraldry.
Yes. Yeah. So it's the fact that a member of the aristocracy in Britain would never press his sexual advantage with a impressionable young woman. What?
That's all they do.
Of course, that was a surefire giveaway that he was Sir Hilly. But yes, he misidentifies the ancestral homeland of the Beauchamps or whatever, and that's what gives it away.
And not just what Bond looks like, or that he's the most obvious spy ever.
Yeah.
And so, like, of course now, because it's Blofeld, and Blofeld loves giving away what his plans are. So the plan is that he's brainwashing the women at the clinic. They're not trying to get over their allergies or anything. It's so that he's going to give them, like, some biological virus that he will give to each of them, and they're going to be distributed to crops across the world, so that to really fuck up the food supply system and threatening to end the human race.
Right. And again, at this point, it's made very clear to the viewer, there's absolutely no reason that these women all needed to be hot, or that they all needed to be women. There's no advantage to that, except, if you're going to have a harem full of brainwashed people, you may as well pick sexy ones.
Exactly. And part of the brainwashing, too, is they're going to be giving these viruses in these Christmas gifts. So it's a Christmas movie, and they're going to be distributing them on Christmas to wherever they need to distribute them to, which I guess, I thought it was going to be world leaders, but I guess it might just be, I don't know, farmers.
Go seduce the farmers.
Yeah. And bring me back some farmers' daughters. I need to film for dowry purposes.
And the entire time, Telly Savalas is, flicking around a cigarette in, the most, catty way.
Okay, I have so many notes about this, too, because, he does this, I think he does this in other movies, too. Usually people, hold a cigarette, between their index finger and the middle finger. Telly Savalas, holds it with his thumb as if, he's holding a Bic lighter or something like that. And it's insane. It must be how he smokes in real life, because, it is mesmerizing how he holds a cigarette. And he uses that cigarette as, a prop for, acting so well. He commands a scene just by holding a cigarette in the most insane way possible.
Yeah. And it is a very syrupy, hammy performance, but I actually really love this villain.
I love it.
He is so comfortable, and without that sort of stiff, terse, the way we saw Blofeld in the last Connery movie. Mm-hmm. He's so self-serious, whereas the Blofeld in On Her Majesty's is so he's just it's very diabolical. He's very showy, very chuckling at his own jokes. It's great.
And then they recast Telly Savalas with Charles Gray in the next one, Diamonds Are Forever. Yeah, and that's just a nothing performance.
Yeah. Well, that one they actually do the plastic surgery plot device, where to explain why Blofeld now looks and talks like an American.
Yeah.
Well, I used plastic surgery there, partner.
Yeah, it's pretty clumsy. And I also speaking of Blofelds, I do think it's clumsy that they tried to hide that Christoph Waltz was a Blofeld inspector.
Oh, yeah.
That was the most obvious reveal ever.
Yeah, I mean, the movie's called Spectre.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, we're like, it's literally like an hour into the movie, and they're like, what the hell is going to happen in the second half here?
Yeah. And, yeah, so, like, Bond's, like, able to make his escape from, Blofeld and his minions there. He basically just, like, punches the guy out and gets down to, like, a cable car machinery room there, and he's like trying to climb around on like some like cables of the cable cars and stuff. It's a pretty nice tense scene. Some great parts in the cable car room with some matte paintings to really show like how high up he is. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he attaches some skis. He's at the top of the mountain. He puts some skis on, and now he's getting to the bottom of the mountain. And there's an incredible ski chase happening here, where like Blofeld's participating too. And
yeah. With a little helmet. A helmet that, like, emphasizes that he's bald under his ski helmet.
I know, right? It looks crazy.
Yeah. He has to have a distinct look apart from the henchmen so that we can identify all these skiers whipping around the ski hill.
Yeah. And, Christopher Nolan said that this is his favorite Bond movie. And, you can tell, like, he got a lot of the snow parts, the snow mind world from this movie, all the ski chases. And so it's a lot of guys like in like
for Inception,
for Inception, yeah. And it's like a lot of the guys like have assault rifles like shooting James Bond. James Bond's getting away. He's like trying to hide in like tree lines and stuff, and guards like hitting trees and like falling off and stuff. And at one point, like Bond's like at the edge of a cliff, like throws one guy off a cliff, like chokes the guy out with the ski. It looks great. I love when they do ski chases in James Bond movies. They don't do enough of them.
But then there's one where he hits a guy with his ski, and the guy goes tumbling off the edge of the cliff, and it holds on the body falling for literally like you think okay, it's he's been falling. It's like a Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner scene where he's just becoming a speck in the distance. It cuts like it's 10 seconds of Bond. From his point of view, watching the guy fall. It cuts to Bond's face again. He's still watching. And then it cuts back to the guy, and he falls for like another 10 seconds.
It's like 30 seconds of a guy falling. It's great. I love it so much.
It's fantastic. You're like, oh. And then it just like he hits the bottom, and it's just like there's no like splat. It's just like like a little like puff of cloud. Yeah,
these clearly like put like a dummy onto some skis and toss him off a mountain. It's awesome. It rules. And so, so then Bond like is able to like get down a little bit more. Another ski chase happens, but he sneaks down to a village that's having this winter festival, and he like changes his attire a little bit, like puts on a big coat, trying to hide during all this commotion. And he runs into Tracy, and as you mentioned, because the other guy who's one of Draco's men was like clearly trailing Bond. He gets killed by Blofeld. So Tracy and Draco's organization are aware that Bond is in this area. Tracy and Bond are trying to escape now, so they get involved in like a little car chase because Bond's trying to go to the post office to like make a phone call to MI6. Blofeld's people start shooting at him some more, so like they get into a car and try to drive away. They get to like is it like a stock car derby thing they get into a track of?
Yeah, like a winter ice car race,
which sounds super dangerous to begin with.
It's like it's like Red Bull Crashed Ice, but with cars. And you're like, what? This seems very American all of a sudden. I guess it must have been something that was happening in like Switzerland at the time, because like why would you include it? It doesn't make any sense. But he's in basically a demolition derby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like it looks awesome because it's actual cars crashing into one another, and so they're able to eventually, after this whole sequence is done, they're able to like escape that, and the snowstorm starts picking up, so they need to get into some cover. So they find a barn to hide in, and Tracy and Bond.
It's the Pussy Galore move.
Yeah, yeah, they're tossing each other around in the hay a little bit. So I think they're lying down there, and Bond like says like he's in love with Tracy and proposes marriage to her, which is like, what the fuck, Bond proposing to a woman? And like she accepts, and like they make a joke like, oh, we should save ourselves for the wedding night. And then like 10 seconds later, like Bond's like, I haven't been laid in 20 minutes, so then just like they start fucking anyway.
What he says, New Year's resolution, I'm giving up shagging. And then he basically like knocks the edge post of her like hay trailer or whatever. Like it's like a table full of hay or like a barrel full of hay that she's lying in. He kicks it and she like rolls down to him. He goes, "But New Year's isn't for until tomorrow night."
Cheeky bastard, that horny bastard.
Again, unclear why Tracy was all of a sudden in this mountain town like that. Is there any reason for her to be there? They stumble into each other completely randomly.
Yeah, it's like she's supposed to be like tracking Bond herself.
Oh, okay.
So like that's why, because she's in love with Bond, whatever. Yeah. So the next day, like so now they're going even more down the mountain. So Bond and Tracy are skiing, and Blofeld and his guys catch up on their skis.
Yeah,
so
there's major rubber band mechanics in this entire multi-day chase sequence where there's no reason why Blofeld's men should be able to catch up ever. Like they're all on skis. It's not like Bond's on skis and the henchmen are on snowmobiles, right? Yeah. Like there's no reason why the other guys are just skiing so much faster. And Bond is just like he's like on a pleasure ski. Like, dude, just get down the mountain. What are you like? What?
But I just love the past like 5 scenes have all part of the same chase sequence. Ever since Bond like punched the one guard on the top of the mountain, like he's been chased ever since. And like I love a good like long chase. And the fact that Bond was able to get some nookie during this chase scene, good for him. And this part kind of rules because like again like Tracy and Bond like they're being chased by all Blofeld's men. They don't have guns themselves. And at one part, like one of Blofeld's guys like falls into like a giant snowplow machine, and like bloody snow keeps like rushing out of it, which is awesome.
It's one of the most insane kills, and it's just like for a movie that doesn't have like it's got some great action sequences, but it's short on like there's no like unnecessary shark or like piranhas or like any of those kind of like over the top like kills. But
it's just
except for this,
it's not
except
like
for this,
yeah, and it's not like Bond does anything to get the guy to fall in there. He kind of just trips and falls in himself.
It is the inspiration for that Austin Powers joke of like the very slow moving like is it a steamroller?
Oh yeah,
like the extremely the snowplow is going so slowly, and clearly the driver's just like I don't know if he's texting and plowing or what. But the henchman falls in front, and then like 4 seconds later gets blended into a paste that gets shot out the top of the snowblower. You're like, oh my god.
It's a great death, and like there's no blood in this movie except for that. Like, it's so funny. So then Tracy and Bond, they end up in an avalanche zone, like an avalanche warning zone. So, like Blofeld just like launches some some flares or some some sort of like loud explosive to trigger the avalanche. What's awesome with this scene is that like they clearly triggered an avalanche for the sake of this movie.
Yeah.
And that's just such a cool filmmaking thing to do, because the avalanche looks really cool. A bunch of Blofeld's men get like killed by the avalanche, get completely destroyed. They think Bond's dead, but Tracy, they're able to recover, so they kidnap her. Of course, Bond back in London, Bond's like talking to M at MI6, and apparently the United Nations are going to agree to Blofeld's demands, and Blofeld, his grand scheme is that he wants amnesty for all his past crimes, as well as so like not just like answer all past crimes, but he wants the recognition for him being a count.
Yes, that is again the most important part. Is like he needs to be like affirmed as part of the British aristocracy.
Yeah, that's more important than like world domination to him, because MI6 refuses to let Bond go back into to Blofeld's mountain lair and get back Tracy. So Bond decides to contact Draco to arrange a demolition job. So Draco and Bond, they have like 3 helicopters full of henchmen and like mafia guys, and they're about to lead an assault on the mountain lair. And there's some great stuff of like them like getting radio contact with like Blofeld and his people. Is like like, oh, we're like a UN humanitarian mission, like we're flying here to deliver important supplies and such. And like there's like fighter jets like flying clearly behind them too, ready to shoot them down. Bond, Draco, and his men, they all landed helicopters at the base there, and like Bond has one great part where he's like sliding down like a curling rink, shooting an assault rifle at like all these henchmen.
Yes.
And a lot of great explosions here. Some of Draco's men, like they have like flamethrowers that are lighting guys up. Blofeld's like, trying to seduce Tracy in the room too, and like Tracy's just she's kind of aware that her father and Bond are coming after her, and during this whole thing, so like clearly Blofeld has is kind of losing the upper hand, so he's ready to escape. Bond's going after Blofeld. Tracy's kind of like, hey, I need to go after Bond. And Draco's just like, no, you're coming with me. And like literally punches his own daughter out. So like, keep her in the helicopter.
Both Bond and Draco, like they beat the crap out of Teresa, the whole Tracy. At multiple points in this movie, they hit her or slap her. They try to slap some sense into her.
Yeah. But it's because,
again, she's a woman, and she's an independent woman, and that needs to be broken out of her.
Yeah, like they do treat her like she's like a horse. Like you need to you get this behavior out of her. Like it's very sexist.
Yeah, and there's the only thing that we see from her is that she's maybe a little depressed. Like it's unclear. She maybe gambles a bit.
Yeah.
Like it's unclear what the issue is with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but Daddy Draco says the diagnosis is that I need some rich British guy to have sex with her.
Yeah, to dominate her. He uses the word dominate. Anyway.
Yeah. So with Blofeld escaping, Blofeld gets down to a bobsled track, and so he's racing down. So Bond gets to his own, and he's able to catch up on the bobsled somehow, because I'm not sure how the bobsleds work. And so Blofeld throws a grenade at Bond's bobsled. So Bond has to hop out of it, gets behind, is holding on to Blofeld's bobsled. And so they're getting into a fist fight in the bobsled there. And at one point, Bond lifts Blofeld up a little bit, and Blofeld's neck gets caught in a tree, seemingly killing him. And at this point, the wires of the bobsled come loose, and Bond can't get control of it, so the bobsled completely flies off the track. And I truly expected the bobsled to explode, because it's one of those kind of things where a last-minute random explosion would happen, but that wouldn't make any sense. It's
a gas-powered bobsled.
And then Bond's in the snow there, he's defeated Blofeld and everything. And a St. Bernard just comes along with some brandy.
It's not brandy, though.
What is it?
But because doesn't he say the dog, because it's got the whole thing with the Saint Bernards, they're supposed to have a little barrel on their collar full of he takes a sip, and I think it's water, because he's like I wanted brandy or something.
Oh, that's it. Yeah,
there's something like that, or he's like I wanted a Foster's.
Yeah. Crikey.
It'll take more than cutting off your earlobes, Blofeld.
But of course Bond doesn't check that Blofeld is dead, which he should have done. But
no one checks that anyone is dead ever in this movie.
No, not at all. And so back in Portugal, Bond and Tracy are getting married, and Draco makes some final attempt at a dowry. Hey, here's a million whatever European dollars, French dollars, Portuguese dollars, whatever. And he's like, no, your daughter's enough there. I'm not gonna accept your money. And so at the wedding, M's there. She's crying because she never got to be with Bond. Q's there because you finally get a second Q scene in the movie. And so they're happily married now. They're driving away in Bond's Aston Martin, and there's a lot of flowers on their car, and some passerby's like, hey, your car looks like a flower shop right now. So they remove some of the wedding decorations, some of the flowers off of it, and they're Bond and Tracy, they're doing very lovey-dovey, stuff about love. Has a flower, and it's he loves me, he loves me not, ripping out the petals. And black car drives by them. You see Blofeld in a neck brace, and Irma Bunt, she leans out of the window with a machine gun and starts opening fire on the car. And Bond's like, oh shit, it's Blofeld, we gotta go after them. And he sees that Tracy's been shot in the head by Blofeld and Blunt, and she's dead.
It's, again, these villains are not very good. Bond he does not seem to have any clue what's happening. He's kind of ducking behind the car. They don't even they barely slow down. The Irma and Blofeld don't even slow down, and she shoots maybe 6 bullets total. Mm-hmm. It's not an insane hail of bullets. It's only the 2 people. It's not they didn't even send the henchmen. They should have absolutely unleashed. They do not make sure that Bond is dead. They fire like 6 or 7 shots and then quickly speed off. It's like, for what? You could have taken care of him. What was the point here?
Yeah. Yeah, Blofeld.
Really, they weren't trying just to kill his wife as payback. They were trying to kill him.
Blofeld loves half measures. Like, he loves just setting Bond up in a room. Like, all right, this will be good enough. This will kill him. He will never just do like what Scott Evil suggests and just shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
And but yeah, at this point, a cop on a motorcycle drives by and sees like Bond cradling Tracy, and Bond has this. This scene here, I think that Sean Connery would not have been able to deliver as well as Lazenby here, because I don't think he has the tenderness. But he says like, don't worry, everything's all right. Like,
he basically says like, she's all right. She's just sleeping.
Yeah, she's just resting. Nothing to worry. We have all the time in the world. The music starts playing again, and we get final shot of the movie is is Tracy behind the broken windshield glass and like the bullet through the glass, and it's a great final shot. And it's like, if you're someone like me, like who I like James Bond as a character, so I know like a lot of people dislike the Craig ones because like those go really deep into like his emotional well-being. I like those movies for that. Like for me, like I think it was like a very effective and emotional ending, because like James Bond like had like this one chance to like happiness, and every time James Bond gets close to happiness, he gets completely screwed over because that's not what the job allows for him.
Yeah. It's and it's also, so that last line, like, it's, we have all the time in the world, and that's been a line that's been repeated throughout the movie to this point. Mm-hmm. But it's also it's in relation to when we're doing the heraldry stuff in the middle of the movie. Mm-hmm. They go over Bond's shield, don't they? They go over the Bond family crest, and like, what does this mean in Latin? And the family crest in Latin translates to "the world is not enough," and that's not a stinger for the amazing Pierce Brosnan movie that comes out 30 years later. It's the that's the thing. Like, we have all the time in the world, but the world is not enough. That's the cruel irony there, and that bookends it. I think there was a thing about how Cubby Broccoli, the producer, didn't want Bond to ever cry. Mm-hmm. And this is definitely like a departure from that. This last scene where Bond is, whereas how many times, like, every woman he's ever slept with has like almost immediately been murdered, like, mm-hmm. brutally. And this is the first time he's ever actually had any sort of emotional response.
Yeah, it makes him more human, and I think that like you can kind of take advantage of the fact you don't have the same Bond actor back. You can kind of just have like a new guy in there and be emotional in a way that it feels like a real departure, and I think it's effective and it really works.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's dissing. Like, I was reading some reviews from like the '60s where people say like, "Oh, like this is, we don't want emotion or Bond movies. This ending's bad because of we just want James Bond to have a happy ending," kind of thing. But like, you're 6 movies into a franchise or 11 books into a franchise, like, make it different, right? Do something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does stand out. It stands out in a lot of ways revisiting it now, and I think when I saw it as a kid, because it was lacking the gadgets and it was a little light on the sort of one-liners that I love so much from the Connery and the Roger Moore days, mm-hmm. It did feel like, okay, this is like a very kind of dull Bond movie, even with 40 minutes in the middle devoted to like the first escape from Piz Gloria, the lair. Mm-hmm. It did feel like it was so light on the action elements that I was expecting, but when you look back at it now, you're like, okay, first of all the sex stuff, him being a sex pest is legitimately hilarious, because it's just like, how many times does his dick get him in trouble in this movie?
And it's
like,
funny.
There's so many things that are so unnecessary, and he's just like, well, maybe. The whole movie is set up by him sort of like intervening in like what looks like it could just be a woman. I don't know.
Woman skinny dipping. He's like, oh, maybe I'll take it off.
going swimming, and it's just like unnecessary for him to intervene the way he does, but clearly he's wanting to get laid. So
yeah, and I think it's the first time that anyone's ever thought James Bond's gay. So the fact that these women thought like, oh, he must be allergic to women. Like, he's like, well, now I have to prove to everyone I have to sleep with this whole harem at this point.
Yeah,
I wonder if he kept their numbers.
Sorry,
I wonder if he kept their numbers like after his wife died. Like, hey, like, I have to go for the other 10 now.
Yeah. Well, I think the way they handle, first of all, the gay insinuation thing is kind of, maybe there's some cultural thing that I'm missing now, but just like the fact he's kind of wearing like a froofy, he's basically wearing like a frilly blouse for most of the layer scenes. Like basically this is like the Austin Powers look that ends up being the look for Austin Powers. But
yes, like
it's unclear what they're picking up on, except that he's like, he talks a lot about heraldic crests. But the way they solve all this is when the first woman that he beds at the lair, they do a shot where it's just they set it up with the woman in bed and she's looking to Bond, and it cuts to Bond, but it's just him below, like from the thighs down, and then he drops his kilt.
Well, yeah, what's her line?
And
like,
she goes, "Sahili, it's true."
Yeah. One thing in the Becoming Bond documentary is that George Lazenby said that for that kilt scene when she's like writing the lipstick on his leg, that the prop guy like hey, like, George, want to do something funny? Like, and they got like some bratwurst sausage to put under his pants or something like that. Christ. So the actress would like think that she's grabbing his penis, which sounds like a more of a not really a funny prank, but kind of a misconduct on set. But who knows if that's true or not, because Lazenby likes telling some pretty tall tales.
Yeah. Well, he was going for full Jared Leto and mailing all the Bond girls sausages.
Yeah, and Lazenby was just like, his like, that we finish off with the movie itself, but with all the press for the movie too, like Lazenby was kind of like laissez-faire in talk shows, a very arrogant person, and like, and like for the premiere he had a beard which he refused to shave, which really pissed off all the producers and like all the media. It was like, oh my god, this premiere of the movie, like, and this James Bond doesn't even look like James Bond. Like, it was already getting shit on even before like reviews came out, and he was doing press on talk shows. He was like not really, like, never seemed grateful to have the role. He mentioned like, the movie was like, wasn't like really, he's talking about how hard the movie was to make and stuff, and so like he was a one and done. Like, he didn't want to come back and do other ones, and a lot of people, of course, critics at the time, were not fond of the movie because they thought like it felt like just another James Bond movie with a lesser actor in the lead role, and a lot of people were criticizing Diana Rigg's character as well, or not a character, her performance mostly, and like overall, like, yeah, like
wild. Isn't that kind of wild? I thought she was quite good.
I think she's great in the movie. Yeah, I think she gets the part really well. She has to be confident for the most part, but also she has to be like very immature. So you have to kind of buy that she's confident and like can do things, but also you have to buy the fact that she's kind of emotionally turbulent. I think she does a great job. That's what critics at the time were just like, no, this just neither actor was up to snuff. But
she's like the most competent actor they've had in like the Bond girl role.
To that point, absolutely, no one comes close.
Like, maybe Honor Blackman, Pussy Galore, but like most of the time they're like not even, they can't even speak English. They have to dub them over them. They're just like really hot European women. Yeah,
like it's like, yeah, I'm baffled that critics were just kind of dumping on her a lot. But like, there's one critic in 1969, Ollie Haskell, for The Village Voice. He, she has a more feminist take on it, and like I think it kind of really reflects what people like with the movie now, where it is a movie where Bond is a little more fleshed out, and he finally sees a woman that is for once his equal, or someone he can actually interact with as someone who's not just part of a mission, an adversary, or someone just to quickly bed. So, and I think that's what makes this movie kind of stand out, is because it is one where, like, he, like, until like Leia Sadu and the Craig ones, like, and there's like, I guess in the book continuity too, like there's Casino Royale is the first book, so like Vesper already exists in this world, so he's already been like burned once by falling in love. So this is the second time he gets fucked over by it, and it's one of those kind of tragic things with the character. But like, it depends, I think, if you believe James Bond's supposed to be like a character or just some sort of stock character. I think it's going to depend on how you want to view this franchise. Because I know a lot of people who just prefer just James Bond to be just an action star rather than a deep character.
Yeah.
And I think that there's room for both with James Bond. That's the joy of the James Bond franchise. There's so many different ways you can do it.
Yeah. As long as it's a white guy from the Commonwealth.
Yeah. But like, yeah, like, but now like a lot of people like this movie. we mentioned why like people don't like the movie, but I think a lot of people like kind of like see the movie for its own merits now. And it is a long movie, but I think it's a very, very good movie. I think it's one of my favorite Bond movies. I think it's one of my favorite Bond movies, and it's because Bond's one of my favorite franchises. It's probably one of my favorite movies overall. Like, I truly think this movie is fantastic, and like a lot of lists I see now for best Bond movies always have it, ranked not at the top, but near the top.
Yeah, and I think there's a movie within this movie that if they re-edited it, and I think like Steven Soderbergh's actually done this before, where he's like edited the whole thing. Mm-hmm. If you take out some of the fan service bits, if you take out the like fourth wall breaking and like the scene where he's kind of looking at past gadgets from other movies, like there's a way you can do this that it is a really great standalone spy thriller. And like, it's obvious it's Bond, like it's got the Bond iconography, but like there's a movie within this movie that is just like really quite excellent and detached from like how much people love Sean Connery and how we know the George Lazenby, tenure ended and like, where he stands in like the pecking order of Bonds. Like I think there's just like a really great movie in this. And if you, as a Bond fan, if you like, if you look past some of the like the issues and like kind of the metatextual stuff of like the Connery versus Lazenby, the trying to incorporate like past Bond villains. If you remove all those elements that you kind of bump on just from like a franchise management standpoint, I think this is like an excellent standalone entry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't say more. Like I think we at this point I think we both said our final thoughts on the movie. Unless you have anything more to throw on top of this.
I would have liked to have seen like the monologue between as when Bond is pretending to be Sir Hillary and he's in the lair and he's lecturing at the women who at first are very interested in him and by the end are like, please kill us. Yeah. I think it would be good if it was kind of like a Jordan Peterson kind of style and he's really like lecturing them on like
cleaning
issues
their room
of like class. He's like, listen here, this matters. You might think it doesn't, but symbols are very important in establishing the Western identities.
There are cathedrals everywhere with eyes to see.
And as long as you make your bed every morning, you can be a little racist.
We need a chud James Bond movie so much. We needed one where James Bond's just a total chud.
Symbols are very important.
All right. Yeah, I don't think I can top that. I think, that's the number one way you can improve the movie. Have James Bond be undercover as a chud. Well, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me, Potter.
Absolutely. Yes, and I again. So you told me this was going to be on video, so it wasn't. So I don't know why you asked that I would wax my back.
Well, like,
don't do that again.
Like, no, like I've been doing, I've been doing this for a few months now. Like, I know that it makes a difference for the audio. It changes the aerodynamics and the acoustics of the room.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Sometimes jokes get caught in the back hair.
Yes. You are not afraid of back hair. Hair is not evil.
Oh my god. Yeah. So, anything you want to plug at all?
I want to plug this podcast.
I appreciate that.
The only movie podcast that matters.
It is. Thank you. Well, if you want to follow myself, I'm on Twitter, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd at BWishart. MoviePod is on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube. I have all those links in the episode description. So MoviePod keeps on trucking along. So the Christmas month is going to keep on going. So next week I'm going to be joined by my sister, Andrea Wishart. We will be discussing Muppet Christmas Carol. Do you have any thoughts on Muppet Christmas Carol, Andrew?
I really like that opening number. That's a great song.
There goes Mr. Humbug.
Yes.
It's the best.
Really enjoy that.
Yeah, everyone just shit-talking you as you're walking downtown.
If you had redone Honor Majesty's Secret Service with Muppets, except for Telly Savalas, I think that's a movie right there.
Oh, yeah. Man, that'd be fun. Like Telly Savalas, I think like I don't think he's ever on the Muppet Show, but I think he would have great energy with the Muppets. I think we'd have the kind of the gravitas like Michael Caine has, where it's just like he's treating them like as if they're actors, not just like they're puppets.
And then you can get like scenes where you got Kermit. He's like, Miss Piggy, your father wanted me to fuck you. I have to fuck you. Oh, Kermit!
Father, I want to fuck who I want. Hiya!
Piggy. That's all I got.
Well, tune in next week when I'm going to try and get my Kermit impression a little bit better. All right, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you again for joining me, Andrew. And until next week, take care.